Right, I believe we're live. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. Are you live? He looks like he's live. That freaks me out when you do that, Andrew.
We? Oh, okay,
What are
so
you
I do this
looking?
then.
You caught me. I caught your eye. Anyway, you caught my eye. Good day to you all, folks. It's jumper time. Well, it is here in Sydney anyway. How are you? Do you have a good Easter? Are you making it through with the kids at home? You packed them off to day camp so you can get some work done, or perhaps you're pre or post kids and you're just enjoying the empty roads. Whatever your situation, thank you for choosing to be with us again. Insights from the Isles, from Shopper Intelligence. Us being, of course, me, David Shukri, here in Australia, and him, Andrew Arnold, on the other side of the ditch. Hello, mate.
Hello, David. How's it going?
Very well, mate. Very well. You did not disappear off into the water in your typhoon the other day, so that's a bonus, I'm sure, for everyone living near you.
Absolutely. So, if you were in the Western Bay of Plenty or Tairāwhiti, you probably weren't as lucky. But certainly up in Auckland's, yeah, we definitely dodged a bullet. That's for sure.
Nice, nice. Maybe more to come though. How are the supermarket shelves and the petrol prices looking? I haven't been over to New Zealand of late. Are you suffering over there with these things?
Yeah, petrol price for sure. Petrol price. I actually haven't put anything in my car for the last week, but when I did last week, it was about 3.56 a litre. So that's quite pricey.
Is it?
And the supermarket shelves, yeah, well, let's just say that water got absolutely smashed on the weekend. Nothing much else, though.
Okay.
Although I did hear some reports of toilet paper going on a rampage again. But hopefully,
It'll
yeah.
It'll happen. It'll happen. So the funny thing that I have experienced here is having moved. If anyone knows the northern beaches in Sydney, but we're going on about petrol prices and how fuel's gone up. But the local petrol stations to where I am now, Forestville, are at the same price now as petrol normally is and has been for about the last 3 years in Mossman. So hasn't really even been that much of an issue around here because I go, well, I was paying more than that when I was living in Mossman. So kind of puts a bit of perspective on it. Anyway, I should probably share something, shouldn't I? Really here. I'm sure you're
Yeah, why
enjoying
not?
watching our lovely faces. But this is what we're going to look at today. It's not Spence. Don't know who Spence is, but we're going to talk about spending your time and our time wisely. We're going to look at some fantastic tacos that Andrew has been spotting in store. We'll take a look at some new news and how we communicate new news, and then we're going to cast our eye in possibly liquor if we have a chance. If we have time, we'll go liquor, and then we're going to go into pharmacy. I'm not quite sure why so many people are coming in through the lobby today. There seems to be something a bit funny. Would you mind keeping an eye on that for me, Andrew?
I'm taking care of it. Don't worry. You carry on.
Awesome. And then when you're doing your tacos, then we'll swap over. And then we'll have a look at pharmacy if we can at the end. And as always, we're looking at what activities and what activations have caught our eye, and things that we think have gone well, and things that we think could have potentially gone better. But the important thing I want you to bear in mind, folks, today is how this all ladders back up to the idea of better retailer engagement. Okay, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. I think you'd probably agree. That's what gets results. The engagement, the collaboration, the effectiveness of that engagement that you have with your trading partners is what we're spotlighting here, and that's what's going to get you the numbers at the end of at the end of your financial year. And it's more obviously than just meetings and chats and sort of feeling good about things. It's about driving to meaningful results for both parties. And through these examples today and through some other bits that we're going to add in, we'll try and spotlight and shine a light on how to do it, well, why do it, I suppose, in the first place, how to do it, what it looks like, and how you can kind of help yourself to get those better results. As always, and I throw this out very often, but the question here to ask yourself individually, as a representative of your team, as a leader in your business, and as a business as a whole, where do you spend your time? Do you find that you're spending your time more on the left hand side, which is more about sophisticated selling? I know it happens. I know Andrew and I are speaking to people at the moment who almost struggling existentially with this idea that well, we want to talk about our brand. What do we do if we don't talk about our brand? We've got to go in and talk about our brand. And this isn't to say that you don't, but it's to say that there's different ways of doing it. So you've got sophisticated selling on the left. We've got parallel thinking in the middle, where you start to have this idea of the category plan running alongside, at least in tandem with brand thinking. But where the real good stuff happens is in joined up planning. Are you spending time there? How much time are you spending in joined up planning? What it means is you really need, I guess, that maturity to be able to say, yes, we've got brand plans and we want to do things with our brand. But if we don't go in there meeting what the category thinking is, meeting where shoppers are in this category, we are going to find it much more difficult to get alignment with our retailers. And that's a good moment for me to release a quick poll. Stuck this out on LinkedIn the other day as well. And very simple one. How are you finding retailer engagement in 2026? 4 options. Got harder than ever. We've got still the key growth driver. We've got dead in some categories. And we've got only works with a strong category story. So pick which one you feel most aligned with. Is it harder than ever? Is it still the key growth driver? I'm interested to see if we get the same sort of result as I did from the poll online. There we go. So that's running now. I will let that run for a bit. Should we let that run for a bit?
Yeah.
Keep going for a bit longer. Right. Okay. So are we ready? Should we go? Should we dive in, Andrew?
Why not? Why not?
Here we go. Over to you. Fantastico. Love it.
God. I did a horrible dad joke on one of my posts just a couple of weeks ago, but that one's just, yeah, that's right up there.
It's top drawer. Well, tell us about it.
Top drawer, yeah, maybe. Look, this one from mine was a bit of a coda to a post that I did back in, I think it was January, where I had identified in store an activation which only did half the job, in the sense that it was going across multiple categories, but the actual messaging and point of sale and so on was only in one of those 2 categories. And the second one was just left swinging in the wind a little bit. So this one, which is all about sour cream actually, and linkage into tacos and into meal kits, is a really great example of what happens or how things can really work if you actually make sure that you are ticking all of the boxes and making sure that the message is consistent across all the locations. It really is no point of actually doing an activation in sour cream, which is talking about tacos and using imagery of tacos, if you don't actually have something in the meal kit aisle right in front of the tacos. But in this case, it's there. And that was why, when I saw this, I immediately went, yes, someone's actually listened out there to the observation, complaint, whatever box you want to put that into, from my one from a few weeks prior, around making sure you're getting everything everywhere across the store in order to make the message come.
I bet they were. I bet this is a direct response to your previous one, Andrew.
I doubt it very much, but I'm just, I'm so narcissistic and I can think that.
Yeah.
But that's not really the point. The point is that this is a perfect example about how if you take an idea, you take a story, you take a concept to a retailer, and you get the full buy-in, this is how this can really work and how it can really, achieve things for you. Because, guarantee you, this is 2 different category managers. There is I can't see any world where there's a category manager in dairy and the same category manager in ambient, in this case, meal kits. So this required an approach across multiple categories, across multiple category managers, across multiple points of connection within the business itself in order to achieve this. And this is what we're talking about when it comes, a good example of talking about retailer engagement. If you don't have the retailer engagement, if you don't have the story that you need to get it across the line, this stuff is harder to do. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
This to me is a perfect example of just one example of having the right story and the right level of engagement with the retailer.
Yes, agreed. It is. I mean, and sorry, before I carry on, I just want to say that I need to hear, if anybody's read this post, can we hear the little yelp of excitement?
Okay. It was kind of like...
Nice. There you go. Right. If you hear that from Andrew in store, you'll know that he's seen something exciting. That's how much he and we love this stuff. Yeah. So it happens, doesn't it? I think your point in the previous post was the precursor to this. Obviously, that you get these. It's not so much disjointed, I suppose, is it? It's just not. It hasn't gone the whole 9 yards. There's an opportunity missing, and it does come down to the capacity that you have to go and tell that story coherently and compellingly to both category managers in this case, and to do that, you have to have something in your back pocket that is more than just we think this would be a great idea. Look at all this stuff that we've mocked up, and I suspect that that's what's happened here.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree because there is only this sort of thing is only going to happen if there is a strong reason to do so. Now, obviously, there's a financial component. I mean, none of us came down in the last rain shower, right? We all understand that. So there's always going to be a financial aspect to just things like this. But if you've got 50 proposals coming at you on a weekly basis around what are we going to do from a in-store activation point of view, from a point of sale point of view, the ones that actually tick the financial box, but also make sense from a shopper point of view, are the ones that are more likely to get into the head of the queue. And the only way you're going to do that is by having a strong story, which is grounded on much more than just simply scan data, and much more simply than just the little piece of brands, rate card or brand spend, or all the sort of other sort of bits and pieces that often get thrown into the mix. This one speaks really strongly to how shoppers shop sour cream. They shop it for occasion. They do not shop it really strongly from anything else other than that. Yes, there's a pantry stocking element, but really it's about occasionality for sour cream, and that's why this works, and that's why the story taken to the retailers obviously resonated.
And I just wanted to take it a bit further, take this point further, because you talk a lot about and you post a bit about the decals and the different in-store media, shall we say, that you can use. I'm seeing a lot of new type messaging in Australia right now. Anyone else seeing that? Stick it in the chat if you're seeing a lot of new. And building on everything that we said so far, the other thing that makes people let out a little yelp when they see what we have to share is the relativity versus other categories. And that's is it even more important? It's sometimes even more valuable when you go to the merchandiser, the buyer, and you say, hey, look, relative to all other categories, I'm not just putting an absolute figure on you here and saying that this would work really well in your category. What I'm doing is saying that it's the number one or the number two category in the entire store where shoppers register that this would be effective. And I'll give you an example. We have a trigger in our unplanned triggers. So I wasn't planning to buy the category until I went in store and I saw something triggered me in store. A new banner, a new pos, something related to newness caught my eye. That is a trigger. And there's a ranking for this, okay? Number one, any ideas before I call it out? What's the number one category in Coles and Woolies where shoppers say they were triggered to buy something in a category because of a new message? So what was the category? I'll tell you now, I can't see what you're doing because I've got that up on the screen in front of me, but portable breakfast is number one. Weight management products ranked number two, female facial skincare number three, and I'll give you another couple of milk modifiers number five. So this matters massively as well. And can you imagine the difference? Just imagine the difference in the conversation if you start going into your retail partners and talking about this kind of thing. Yeah, it's not because I dreamt it up. It's not because I think it's a really good idea, but I know versus all the shoppers in your store how effective this is going to be in your category versus 186 others. Okay, Andrew, just final thoughts from you while I load up the poll results.
Yeah, final thought from me on this is that obviously, this is a specific situation. This is, something which is really relevant to sour cream. So obviously what you need to do is you need to find out what that thing is in your category. The thing which actually is going to make much more of a difference to a random average shopper walking in and seeing something and being the trigger to make them go, it's that. Now, that could be price. It could not be price. It could be occasion. It could not be occasion. It could be a whole raft of things. But you got to understand and know what that is in your category and therefore put you on a stronger footing to design something that would work in the same sort of way as what we've shown here.
That is a great point, and there's something I want to build on that, but I need to find a pen to write it down because I want to move on, but I will come back to that. Let's view the results very briefly. Have they come up on your screen, Andrew, the results of the poll?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, as I grab a pen, what I can tell you is 39% of people said that retailer engagement in 2026 only works with a strong category story. I think I'd probably agree with that. We have 29% of people say still the key growth driver. We have 21% of people saying harder than ever, and 11% of people saying dead in some categories. So my offer to you, if you voted harder than ever, if you voted dead in some categories, contact me or Andrew after this webinar and we'll see if we can help you. Yeah, we've got nothing to lose. If that's the situation you're in, nothing to lose. If you're in the only works with a strong category story, give us a shout as well, because maybe you're seeking that category story. I also spotted Nancy popping up. Nancy, hello. She's from the Shopper Intelligence team. I think we've got a bunch of other people from Shopper Intelligence on the line as well. So stick you out. There you go. There she is. Hello. Real time. So if you have questions, as Nancy said, stick them in the chat. And if we don't get to it, then maybe someone else in the team will be able to answer it for you. Right, with that, I'm going to close that. That's gone. And now we're going to go, we're going double dosing, Andrew. You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
It's you again. Go. Hit him.
New news. So this one is from about probably a month before Easter, I think it was. So there was a few motivations for me when I was doing this particular post back in the day, and it was first on the list was the fact that there was just lots of innovation that was happening in stores. So I'd been around a few that day, and there was just a lot, and it was across all categories as opposed to just being sort of, which sometimes happens, just being in a select handful, because obviously if you're a big manufacturer and you're launching in multiple banners and all the rest of it, there's going to be activations across all those banners and all categories. But it wasn't that. There was more of it. And so it was a great thing to see. But there was also different levels of new. So, yes, there was plenty of pictures in there. But you had big ones like that Doritos mini one. Is that Doritos? Yeah. And then there was other ones that were a bit smaller, like, soups and all the rest of it. There were some others that was on sauces. There was just a whole bunch of them, which were all about different aspects and different things. So that got me thinking. And this was when I actually sort of hit on the tenor of the post, which was all about, if you have something that you need to share and need to launch with the world, then you've got to make sure that you're doing it within your means, because big brands can launch big. Small brands, though, might not necessarily be able to launch as big, and that is perfectly okay if that actually is what happens. Because you do not want to try and pour all your eggs into one basket and spend a whole bunch of money and then find out that 6 months down the line that you completely run out of activation spend and you can't support the launch any further, or even not 6 months, but 3 months down the line when they're starting to look at 13-week rates of sale to see whether you survive or not. So it's all about understanding what can I actually do within the retailer engagement lens, because obviously to launch properly, you have to have that engagement with the retailer. They have to be on board with what you want to do. They have to be on board with the concept, with the idea, and the resource that you're putting behind it. But they also have to be, you also have to be aware of the fact that that support period will end, and what do you do after that? So that's why the Maggi example there, which has the new on the SRT on the shelf ready tray, to me was just the perfect thing to do, because I have been very, very vocal over a number of years with a whole bunch of suppliers and clients and even retailers that manufacturers can control their pack. They can control how it gets displayed on shelf. They may not necessarily be able to control where it's displayed on shelf and all that kind of stuff, but you can control your own pack, and in this case, shelf-ready trays. So make use of those tools to your best ability to make sure that the support, when the support ends for a launch, that you can still, get awareness, to turn heads, to catch attention, which is why those SRTs for me was a great example of that. What's better than printing pink new on something that the product needs to be displayed.
What's better than that, Andrew? You tell me.
Well, that possibly me running around and going when I see something of interest, but no one needs to hear that again.
Yes. So on this point, and thanks, Peter. I know Nancy's given you a response in writing, but let's just share for the group in case nobody saw that. Somebody didn't see that. What do consumers respond to in terms of activation? Floor decals or in aisle? I think we've alluded to it, but what's your thoughts on that, Andrew?
Well, quite simply, shoppers will respond to all those things in different ways and different methods, depending on the category itself. In some categories, a big display is not needed. All you need to do is actually catch their attention at shelf, because that's where most of their attention is focused on. In some examples, there are categories where having a big, massive aisle end, like that chip one, doesn't work. It does not do anything. It will not move the needle. All it will do is just maybe catch a cursory glance, and then off they go to the main location to do what they always will do. And of course, there are other categories where they need this to survive. So I did a further post on a Red Bull display a few weeks ago, where that's a perfect example of a category, energy drinks, where you need off locations. You need to be able to be showcasing everything that is new about a product, because that's what shoppers expect. That's what shoppers want to see. But by the same token, if you have a category that is smaller or more planned or less about activations, do the activation at shelf, because that's where the shopper is going to pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the reality of it. There's a spread, and this is the beauty, and this is why I've loved working with this data set for so long, is because there's a spread on every single measure. And I sort of jumped the gun a little bit because I was talking about new on the previous example, and probably should have left it to this one. But just to build on that, we take that newness as a trigger of unplanned purchase, which is exactly where one of the angles that Peter's referring to there is which angle is going to work best. And we look at just within home care, we have dishwash products ranks 155 for the effectiveness of a new type of trigger, some piece of POS, something above the shelf, below the shelf, wherever it might be. And in the same department, you've got what was I just looking at here? You got we've got kitchen cleaning accessories, 63, hand dishwashing liquid, rank of 89. Very, very different responses, very, very different results. Some perhaps even quite surprising. I'm just looking at the ranks of all of them here. I just saw tomato and barbecue sauce, 167th ranked out of 186. So that's the value of this. And you touched on it, Andrew, is going, well, and I'll bring in this other point. Maybe a few times recently, I've heard suppliers saying, we want to tell X story. This is what we want to do with this category. And we go, yeah, great. All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look and see how shoppers feel about that. Because if you find that you rank an 167 for that new trigger or whatever else it might be, then maybe there's a very strong argument for doing something else and for changing your thinking on it and shifting in a different direction. Not only because it's going to get you a better result, but in the first place, it's potentially going to get you better results or better collaboration, better engagement from your buyer, your merchandiser, because they're going to buy into this a little bit more than just to go, well, this is kind of what we want to do. It's how we feel about the category. Back it up with the specifics that you're seeing in those categories.
And if we pull that back actually just to a simple, commercial conversation that you're going to be having with your buyers. If you are playing in a category where innovation is not necessarily something which the shopper is interested in all that much, relatively speaking, and if it's not something where you need the bells and whistles to happen from an activation point of view, just think about the fact that if you actually go and spend a lot of money with the retailer to activate a new thing, and that new thing doesn't actually move the needle very much, then how likely is it that they're going to do that again, in a future round of innovation or in a future round of ranging? So it's a bit like you got to fish with the fish are. If the category is really about innovation, then stuff like those chip displays, yes. But if it's not, then how can you actually make your money work best for you in a way that is actually going to be in line with shopper need, and less about necessarily trying to do a big, massive song and dance with something which might just backfire on you.
And I mean, we're focusing a lot, Andrew, on the supplier angle, or this coming in from suppliers. But hey, look, if you're retailers, and I know some retailers on this call, you work for a retailer, same applies. I mean, the same thing holds. You're just looking at it from a different perspective, because you're looking at potentially a long list of categories. Maybe you're looking at all categories. Maybe you're looking at a whole department, like I was just picking out, and you're trying to find the balancing act between, well, we can't spray these messages out in every single category, or maybe there's a corporate push to encourage more of X, Y, or Z. It's still worth looking into this and going, well, that's fine in category X, absolutely bang on. In category C, that's not going to get us the results. Let's do something different. Let's go where our shoppers are and get better results that way. And then we can potentially play that story internally as well. If we're getting some pushback and some challenge from our stakeholders internally, we can say, well, no, we've looked at the information. The information tells us where this category ranks versus others. Catalog is a great one, isn't it, Andrew? We often see this misalignment between what's in catalog in pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and what actually scores 150th or lower on being triggered by catalog. And from a corporate perspective, somebody might think, yeah, but we sold loads. Yeah, but what's the opportunity cost? If you stack the catalog with categories 1 through 10 on the ones that are most likely triggered by a catalog, what results could you have got then?
Yeah, I mean, I always go back to my toilet paper example about how if I was working for a toilet paper or a paper goods manufacturer, I would promote as little as possible, because promotion, unless there is an extremely strong brand proposition going on within paper goods, and there is a very, very strong willingness for people to switch, then promotion, to actually be loyal to a particular brand. If that's not happening, then promotions, all they will do is just simply get people to stock up on something that they're going to use at the same rate that they always have. So it doesn't grow the category. It doesn't actually bring in new users. It doesn't do anything like that. It just simply provides a little blip on a volume chart. It doesn't do much else. Now, of course, if you retain the share afterwards, fantastic. But the characteristics from a shopping point of view of categories like home care, like paper goods, do not back that up. They do not see that as being a winning strategy.
No. Okay. So just as we flip out of food and into the wonderful world of wine, I throw this out as a question, guys, and I appreciate if you don't want to get involved with it, that's fine. But if there's anyone out there who wants to answer this one, we just had a poll. Retailer engagement in 2026 is, I think 20% odd said harder than ever, and 11% said 10 dead in some categories. What's the key challenge that you see that's led you to one of those answers? If you can encapsulate that in a comment. Doesn't have to be related to a specific retailer or a specific category or anything. Just if you can articulate that in broad terms, just interested to know what's making you think that it's harder than ever. What's making you think that it's dead in some categories? If you're happy to stick that in there, I can see we've got a new message at least. That's Nancy. Thank you, Nancy, for keeping the chat going. Otherwise, everyone's very quiet today, listening intently. But if you've got other questions, let us know, folks. It's your webinar as well. In fact, it's primarily your webinar, really. Let's move on. We have, thank you. We've got one idea. Andrew, have a look at that for us in a sec and just keep your eye on that one. I'm going to go into BWS, going into wine. I'm going into something that I saw about 2 weeks ago, and it is Poco Vino. You've got to love my accent there.
No.
So, what's that?
Not really.
You did. Come on, you did. I know you did. Just embarrassed to say. So beautiful little display. obviously has been brought to market in conjunction specifically with BWS. I haven't seen it elsewhere. It may be elsewhere, but I haven't seen it. But I can obviously see them. We can all see the branding is embedded into this freestanding unit. Vibrant, colourful. It's built in with you've got the BWS Appy Deals thing built into the side, I think, as well. Great visual of the little Poco Vino bottle, and just fantastic little activation. And on one level, loved it because we just don't see very much of this in liquor in Australia in general. Starting to maybe see a little bit more coming through, a little bit of theatre, something that kind of breaks the austerity of the, well, there's one aisle, there's another aisle, there's an end of an aisle. If you don't want something from there, then, you know, good luck to you. Not hugely intrusive. Obviously, the size of the product, the bottle, enables that to sit nicely on the end of the aisle. So there's all sorts of good stuff there. But there's some other things. There's some deeper things which this may or may not have been built on in terms of getting this over the line. But I will share them with you in a minute in terms of what shoppers are actually saying when it comes to smaller bottles. I'm going to dig those out now. Andrew, what do you think of this?
Well, I absolutely love this. Now, I have not seen this myself in New Zealand, but I am reliably informed that it is out there in New Zealand as well.
Mm.
And I, like you, David, I just love the fact that this is building on some very strong building blocks, you know, to keep the thread going of what shoppers are saying. So shoppers over here are saying slightly different things. Not slightly, they're actually quite different in some areas in terms of traditional liquor. But there is a general theme here that's also applicable, which is why this is likely to work in New Zealand as well. So when David's actually got his numbers out, I can share with a few more of those in terms of what the numbers in New Zealand are saying in traditional liquor.
Okay, well, let's do that. So I'll drop one in first, and remember, guys, the emphasis, the idea behind this is, okay, we start off, we've got this idea. We think it's going to be aimed at this group of shoppers, and we're going to go in and we're going to go and pitch it. How are we going to make sure that we get this over the line, you know, to the best of our capacity, give us the best opportunity to make this land, to get this bought into and to get it into stores? Fascinating first thing that I dug out when I was looking at the smaller bottle is you have a significant over-index among shoppers, 18 to 34-year-olds, buying into this kind of Piccolo, this 250, this 330, or even smaller 185 ml bottle, versus the average wine shopper, or the standard bottle size shopper. But you're also getting a big over-index in the 35 to 54 age bracket as well. And that is something that I haven't heard anybody talking about from the supply base yet. It's all 18 to 34, 18 to 34. So the other part of that is the massive under-index amongst the over 55s. Over 55s not engaging in a smaller bottle, hardly at all, really. But it is not exclusively an under 34s situation or choice, which then leads you to a whole bunch of other questions like, well, what are they doing with it? How are they using it? How are they engaging with it? And that leads to another one, which then is just another example of how you then build this story. So, okay, we're not just looking at 18 to 34-year-olds. We're looking at 35 to 54-year-olds as well. Very different behaviors. And I could run this and I could talk for an hour just on the differences between these two. But I'll leave it at this one and then head back to you, Andrew, because what we see is that where is it gone? Drinking occasions. The big standout really is when it comes to occasions. Yes, the younger shopper, that 18 to 34-year-old, is buying for the social, it's for drinking out of home, it's for all those sorts of things. But so there's an occasion, it's portability, it's convenient. But for the over 35s, the one that stands out is drinking with a meal. It's nothing necessarily to do with going out or socializing or being somewhere else. It's not even immediacy necessarily, but it's more about portion control and reduction in consumption. So now you've got a very different take that you can put on it, which is, yes, we've got the younger audience. They will love this. They will love the vibrancy. They will love the portability. They will love the convenience. But we have a middle-aged audience as well that is being triggered really by probably something very, very different, which may be much more around a health angle and a sustainability angle, and so on and so on. It could be cost as well. All those things start to come into play, and that is the absolute gold dust of being able to dig into this. And you're not just looking at sales. Yeah, sure, overlay the sales, and you can see some patterns there. But it's, why are they doing that? Why is an older shopper in this category as well when we thought it was going to be under 34s? I'll pause. Over to you, Andrew.
Yeah. So over here, the reasons why this would work are a bit different, because we don't necessarily have so much of a difference in terms of what is important across the age groups. So there are some pretty big differences there. But the biggest thing really is that the under 35 shopper in traditional liquor in New Zealand is really unhappy. And they're really unhappy because of essentially three things. Number one, healthy choices, which of course this addresses. Number two, innovation. They just don't feel there is enough new things coming through that are catching their attention. And I mean, if you're an under 35 shopper, bright pastel colors and all that kind of stuff is definitely going to catch your attention when you're walking into a store. And thirdly, which I think is probably the most interesting out of all this, is enjoyment of shop. So these guys actually feel like the experience within traditional liquor is just not interesting. It's just nowhere near interesting enough to actually catch their attention and to get them engaged. So those are the three things that they're asking for. And when you sort of chuck on other things, like, for example, the younger shopper is several orders of magnitude more likely to do something impulsive as opposed to a 55 plus shopper in traditional liquor. We're not talking your law gap. We're talking a massive gap in terms of that level of impulsiveness that these guys have. And you also chuck in the fact that the younger shopper also has no clue about what things should cost in a traditional liquor environment. You take all those things and you pour them in, you mix them all up, and this is what you get. This is why this sort of thing is going to work really well in New Zealand, but for different reasons for why it will work really well in Australia.
So, folks, just imagine your next retailer conversation being framed up around that. Just that. And the whole conversation from beginning to end is about your shoppers, how they're feeling, thinking, behaving, acting. And then at the end, hey, would you like to look at how we propose to win with that shopper? What buyer worth their salt is going to go, no, do you know what? I think I'm okay. I just want to add the one other bit I wanted to add, which was in the original post, because we talk so much about price and price and price and price, and price is important. But if you read my post, shoppers under 35 are not price obsessed in all cases, in all scenarios, in wine in Australia. In fact, price is only their fifth most important factor when shopping that department. Fifth most important. It's not even number two. It's the fifth most important product. And you've alluded to some of them in New Zealand that come higher up, but healthy choices, bottle size, hence this is a great example, those things are more important. And there are lots and lots of instances where when you dig into actual behaviors, that is the outcome. Price is important, but it is not the exclusively most important thing that is on everybody's mind every single time they go shopping. There are other things in there. This does a great job of kind of bringing some of that to life, but there's just a lot of other stories to tell. The power of it is in framing it up around the BWS shopper, or the Liquorland shopper, or the Coles shopper, or the Chemist Warehouse shopper, which we're going to go on to in just a second. Any final thoughts, Andrew, on this one?
The only final thought I'll have, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but the final thought is that we understand price is important. We understand that price matters. We understand that price has got that level of actionability that has to be undertaken. But you take care of that, you strip that out, what's left? A whole bunch of other things that you actually need to address to make sure that the shopper is getting the experience that they're looking for. And in this day and age, when shoppers are really, really being selective about where they go and what they do and how they go about it, you've got to look at that stuff. You just have to, because otherwise the tricks will be missed.
Don't want to miss any tricks. Okay. So I'm conscious of time. We're going to go and head into a last one, a bonus fourth activation for you today, folks. Let's see if I can work out my tech. Where am I going? Here we go. So some of you may recognise this as an aisle. You can tell from the width of the aisle straight away that it's got to be Chemist Warehouse. Now, typically, traditionally, I'd say 99 times out of 100, a conversation that I have with anyone about Chemist Warehouse is, oh, it's a nightmare shop, isn't it? Aisles are too narrow. Two people can't get down there. And then everyone kind of resolves that it's not great. It's not great. How can they possibly be doing what they're doing? So vitamins and supplements, by the way, is one of those key categories that people go, oh, it's bewildering. It's bewildering. I'm not saying that it couldn't always be done better. There's always room for improvement, but something to consider and to help get us out of the sample of one mindset, or well, I don't think it's great and therefore it probably isn't. We currently sample something like 5,000 Chemist Warehouse shoppers in Australia, and we find that vitamins and supplements is the number 2 ranked category on overall satisfaction in Chemist Warehouse. Not only that, so number 2 out of, I think 20, 25, 26 categories, number 2 ranked category relative to all other categories. The other thing to bear in mind is it is a strong hero category for Chemist Warehouse. In other words, shoppers in Chemist Warehouse are choosing specifically to go there for this category because of the way it's delivered, because of the way it's executed, because of the whole composition of that category. So it's not just that it's performing well into satisfaction terms within Chemist Warehouse, but actually the role that it plays is a hero category, which indicates to us that people are making their choices specifically to go to that store. So you pull out of this notion, and I personally have tried to buy vitamins once or twice there, and I found it quite tricky. But that's not the point. my opinion doesn't count. What matters is, en masse, when we ask a lot of shoppers, what is the balance of opinion? And that's when the opportunity, that's when the reality comes out. And then beneath that, we can start digging into the real opportunity. And there are opportunities, as I say. I haven't got time to go into them today. If you're interested, drop me a line afterwards and I can shoot you through a couple of ideas. But the relativity versus all other categories is really important. And then the dynamics within that category are also really important. Again, I said it a few times. Imagine going into that meeting with Chemist Warehouse with Ilias and being able to go, hey, look, this is how your shoppers are behaving in this category. It's not because I dreamt it up. It's not because I think my brand can do this, that, and the other. This is what's actually being said. Now, how do you feel about the proposal that I'm going to share with you? Totally different opportunity to engage and connect. What's your views, Andrew?
Yeah, very similar to yours on this. We also have Chemist Warehouse data in New Zealand as well. And I can also back up the fact that vitamins and supplements has got much higher satisfaction than most categories within Chemist Warehouse in New Zealand. And I also look at that from the point of view of why do people go to, you said it yourself, why do people go to Chemist Warehouse to buy vitamins and supplements? Most of you will probably say it's price. I can tell you that most of you are categorically wrong. It is not price, it is range. So shoppers are prepared to put up with a little bit of issues in regards to actually finding exactly what they're looking for, because they know that actually if they put in the effort and are willing to stand in front of the fixture for a couple of minutes, they will find what they're looking for because the range is there. Price is far more of a factor in grocery, but even then it's still not the big factor in grocery. So you're still talking about two different sort of schools of thought there and two different approaches. The other thing which I think is really important to note is that there's another category within Chemist Warehouse on both sides of the Tasman that is pretty similar to vitamins and supplements in appearance, and that's skincare. Because they're both pretty much the entire length of the store. They're both, both sides of the aisle. There's, literally thousands and thousands of SKUs in there, lots of promotional activity. Yet in New Zealand, the satisfaction in skincare is second from bottom in Chemist Warehouse. And you would be surprised to know that is the case, because don't they look the same? Aren't they treated the same? It's all about the relativity. Certain things in skincare aggravate shoppers more than they do in vitamins and supplements. So it's about knowing those differences and being able to have a plan to take into the likes of Zubair in Auckland and say, this is what we're going to do. This is what we want to try and achieve based on what the shoppers are telling us, not just based on personal opinion.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right, right. I'll come back to Chemist Warehouse in just a sec, but I love. Hello, Kathleen. How you doing? I love your comment. Consume a sample of one. I'd love more range of little bottles of wine. The size you get on the aeroplane is perfect
Absolutely.
for one occasion. Kathleen, I think you're spot on. If wine people on the call, please bear that in mind, and I'll pass it on if we get the opportunity. There's one other thing I was going to say about this, and then we'll wrap up. But pro tip, pro level for you out there. If you're responsible for categories, if you're responsible for category teams, if you're responsible for sales, whatever your role is, pro tip. We talked about category roles here, and what made me think of this, Andrew, was when you talked about skincare. We've done this analysis a few times over the years. Those of you familiar with Shop Intelligence will know we have a category role matrix, 2x2, and it tells you whether you are sitting as a hero category, a trip driver, a basket driver, or a differentiator. That's the role that your category plays in the eyes and the minds of shoppers in the retailer. And the pro tip here is that when you dig into that information, it is never the case that all shoppers in a category are all treating it like a hero or all treating it like a basket driver. And skincare in particular is one of these fascinating ones where you get relatively even split across those four different profiles, four different roles. Sometimes it'll be more on the unplanned side of things. Sometimes more on the planned side of things. So you can have a combination of these things. And if you really want to get to pro level and really knock the socks off that buyer, that merchandiser, you go in there and you go, hey, look, we've looked at this and we looked at the complexity and the sophistication of your shopper base, and we can see that there are different roles. So actually doing one thing and driving in one direction isn't going to get us the best results. Yes, price is going to be critical to this bunch over here, but actually over here, it's a totally different strategy that's required, different tactics, different engagement pre-store, different results at shelf. And that's when you really start to go into that super partner captain territory. You don't need to have the budget of a category captain to act and to look and to feel like a category captain. You can go in with this information and you can start to behave like one, and you can have a seat at the table and be a trusted advisor. And you're going to find it's probably going to get your influence up and get a lot more of what you want to get across the line because it's based on truth and it's based on trust. Andrew.
Yeah. I can count the number of examples on hundreds and hundreds of hands where I've seen brands playing different roles within categories, where I've seen segments playing different roles within categories, where I've seen age groups playing different roles within different categories. So definitely take on board the fact that while there is a category story, there can often be a very significant story below the category level, which is important to understand and may well be of more use to you than the category story, or will augment the category story, or whatever it takes you. There's just so much richness to this, and understanding it is really so important to making sure that when you are having those conversations with your retailers, that you're talking to them about things that need to be talked to, and you're getting that alignment on what you want to do and what you need to do.
Definitely. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap up. Follow along with us on LinkedIn if you want to see these posts firsthand. And indeed, if you engage with them, then you are contributing to what comes up next in IFTA. Next one is Wednesday, the 10th of June. Save the date, mark your diary, make sure all your team's available. As I've said in the past, I know a lot of people tune in big rooms all together and have a chat about this stuff together. I hope you did that today. It's been quite one on the chat today. I hope everyone's feeling okay. I hope we've interested you and offered you some good value. If you did, maybe just give us a thumbs up before you go in the chat, just so we know that we hit the mark this week. And I've got some hands ups coming in. That's good. Thumbs up's even better. And what shall we offer up today, Andrew? I was thinking, since we talked a bit about at shelf activation, what about top 10 categories for information at point of display? Thank you, Amy.
Why not?
Yeah, sound good? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, stick a yes in the comments now. If you want to know what are the top 10 categories in Australia and New Zealand for the role and significance of at-shelf display for an unplanned purchase. There we go. Linda's after it. There we go. Everyone's there. All right. I'm starting to get a bit worried now. I could see the number, but I still
nothing works better than free.
Yeah, a little something for nothing. Look, that's what this is all about. Hope you've enjoyed it. Contact us if you're finding that retail engagement difficult, folks, and you need some help and you want to come at it from a different angle that doesn't rely on price all the time. Andrew, take care, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, David, and thank you, everybody. Great to see you all, and until next time.
See ya. Take care. Bye for now.